All right, so last hour I shared the good news. This out of the state of out of the state of Wisconsin about they were using this concept of having referendums to try to turn out the vote. And then I look at my inbox, and I want you to consider this, no matter where you live, no matter if you've got a spring election coming up or you don't. But you are more than likely, I mean, we have a fair amount of liberals that listen, but the majority of this audience are God-fearing, country-loving, patriotic conservatives. Now, when you think of an important election and you think we've got to turn out the vote, as we talked about with a U.S. Senator not long ago, when you look at off-year elections, they can sometimes have a difference in turnout from a mainstream kind of November election of as much as 700,000 votes. 700,000 people didn't disappear. They didn't vote. They didn't show up. So turning out everybody is of utmost importance. So you would think you would not want to do anything that might suppress your vote. Instead, you do things like I mentioned they were doing in Wisconsin. They would add 3 referendums, all that would have appeal to conservative and Republican voters as a means of them being able to get out there and support those referendums. This is very smart. So that begs the question why, in the same state, the effeminate Republican Speaker, Robin Vos, led a press conference today prior to the April 4th, just for the records, Ides of March, et tu, Brute. I started the show asking Steve if he knew what today was. The Ides of March and this, the stabbing, et tu, Brute. That would be a good et tu, Robin Vos. Because what did he do? Now, understand in this Supreme Court race that's going on, one of the most focused attacks against Justice Daniel Kelly, the constitutionalist, that is the hands-down best choice, is that he supports the existing law in the state that makes it illegal to have an abortion in virtually every case except for very narrowly defined situations that would involve the life of the mother. It's an existing law. It has been there since the 1800s. When Roe was overturned, it automatically went back in force. The argument from the left is, well, it's an old law, so therefore it can't be good. They don't make the same argument, by the way, for the laws outlawing slavery, even though they kind of came around at the same time in history. But whatever, they're never consistent. And one of the focal point attacks is that Justice Daniel Kelly, who, by the way, is a justice. He doesn't vote, right? He does in a court case, but he has actually not spoken specifically about his personal beliefs because he may have to hear that case and he's not going to taint it. But the leftist Protasewicz is attacking that he's an ultra pro-lifer, and that's the problem. So what do you think the message is that is sent to the voting body in the state when the Republican-led House and state Senate come out on a day like today, the Ides of March, and say, we are preemptively capitulating to the left, and we're going to water down this pro-life law as much as we can? Doesn't that suppress the conservative vote when you see such cowardice from the Republicans? Doesn't it send a message that even the Republicans don't support this justice candidate in Dan Kelly? Because after all, millions of dollars have been spent to establish that he supports the law that the Republicans are now watering down. Does it not create a self-fulfilling prophecy where people like Robin Vos, who said that Kelly couldn't win, won't win because they are working to suppress their own vote? I mean, one has to wonder what the conventional wisdom is 2.5 weeks before a major election, why you would come out and preemptively capitulate. If only we could find a blue pill to give him that would help him find his backbone again. And not just him. There's a number of sellout Republicans that were at the press conference and that are co-sponsors on the bill, which I have in front of me now. The list is frankly too long to give in this segment, but it's pathetic and it's sad. It has absolutely been. And by the way, because I knew it was coming, And I received a call recently. And you know what one of the points of pressure they're using to try to get members of the state assembly and state senate to support this wrong-headed attempt? That if they don't co-sponsor and vote for it, that they will firmly blame them should Kelly not win. They'll make it their fault for being too pro-life. You really have to ask yourself why the Republican leadership, the brain trust in Madison, thought that was a great way to bolster an election, one of the most important elections the state has faced, and could determine the future of any number of key policies, including the state of that law, that this was what it would take to make them winners. Does that make sense to anyone?
The Regular Joe Radio Show.
All right, short segment. I went a little long there, so I'm going to hold the phones until the next segment because I don't want to try to start a call and then have to cut it off, because we're up against the hard break. But I just want to finish quickly my thought on this, frankly, asinine move by the Republican leadership in Madison on introducing a watering down of the pro-life law they have for no reason, by the way. Now, you'll be told conventional wisdom is somehow this is going to motivate more people to vote Republican. No, it's not. Ask someone to explain the numbers to you. Ask them to tell where are we going to pull people in suddenly, because nobody can explain it because it's just completely made up of whole cloth. But here's my advice. It's not just problem, it's solution. Here's the solution. It's very simple, may not be easy, but simple. First and foremost, if you live in the state of Wisconsin, call your state senators, call your state representatives, tell them to vote no on this ridiculous watering down. By the way, the exceptions, rape, incest. On the rape one, it pretty much opens it up to anyone that just says they were raped. There's no actual need for any kind of qualification to it, which essentially then opens up abortion again, right? Through all stages. It defeats having the law in the first place. So number one is call your elected leadership and your elected body and tell them vote no. More importantly, show up and vote. Whether you vote early, whether you vote on April 4th, don't let them win. Don't let this stop you from going out and voting yes on the 3 important referendums and voting for Daniel Kelly on April 4th. That is the ultimate victory over these kind of stupid moves where they think they can act with impunity. On the Senate side, it's Mary Felskowski leading the charge. That's 2 strikes. She's big pro-pot lady. Now she wants to be the big pro-kill baby lady, which is a little bizarre and weird, but whatever. That's her choice. It's your choice to not elect her again the next time she comes up. And it's your choice to call your elected officials and say, look, I want you to vote no when this comes to the floor, and make it clear to them that you're not mincing words and not playing games by making sure you show up and vote, and not just you, but recruit 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever you can of legal voters in the state of Wisconsin to show up and vote in your spring election and send a clear message that you want Dan Kelly, the rule of law, and constitutional conservatives.
This is the Regular Joe Show.